Hello, welcome to Snark Town. This is Brian D. Meeks, and I'm reading from my satire, Underwood, Scotch, and Rye. This is Chapter 4. The late afternoon sun seemed to take some of the edge off of Winhu as Arthur led her to his parking spot. She hadn't stopped talking since leaving the office. He wasn't listening much, but the gist seemed to be that she took her TA job seriously and wasn't going to let his need for a crash computer course stop them from enriching the minds of any who took the class. I believe that if one attends class and pays attention, then they will have every opportunity to earn a passing grade, she said. Would you describe yourself as an easy or hard grader? Arthur asked, figuring that her response might be long enough that he could zone out and have a pleasant nap. Hard? You? Damn, he thought. Not at all prepared for a serious discussion. He said, I've been described as tough but fair in my real classes, but for SMS 301 I thought I'd employ one of those indecipherable check plus check minus systems that so many of my colleagues use to allow them to give A's to students they really like and F's to students who have the temerity to think for themselves. I hate those systems. Why do they do that? Because in most cases they lack the reasoning and math skills of a mildly retarded newt. You can't say that. I'm not always politically incorrect. But when I am, I prefer to pick on a group with very little lobbying muscle. Do you have strong feelings about the family salamander? I thought you were talking about the politician. I wasn't. Well then, I suppose it's okay. Just don't pick on pandas. I would never. Is that your car? It's a classic. 1957 Triumph TR3, and I'll not tolerate any disparaging remarks about her. She is the love of my life. She's cute in a middle life crisis sort of way. If I had a child and had to choose, well, there would be one more orphan. Winhu climbed into the tiny sports car. Arthur pulled a pair of pretentious driving gloves from his pocket, placed the key into the ignition, and paused to give the moment the reverence it deserved before twisting his wrist. The engine roared in an understated British sort of way. He said, Put on your seatbelt, Lou. The car pulled away with its satisfying roar. It's who? What's on second? I don't know who's on first. That's getting old fast. Until you get the joke, I'm going to stay with it. Wen whipped out her iPhone and her thumbs began to pound on the screen. Arthur barely had time to ponder what she might be up to when he heard the familiar routine. He was both impressed and a little horrified at how quickly she found it. Wen laughed a little. Wen put her phone away and said, We're here. I see that, Arthur said in a voice that was decidedly unexcited. The Apple Store doesn't have curb service. We'll need to go in. I'm saying a prayer. What for? I'm saying a little something, lamenting the loss of the life I've so enjoyed. I shall never again be able to unleash a torrent of derision at Eric when he giggles like a schoolgirl at each new Apple announcement. It's really vulgar. What? His fanboydom. You know the term fanboy? Eric explained it to me between applegasms the night before the iPhone 4S came out. He was standing on that very spot there, Arthur said, pointing towards the sidewalk outside the Apple Store. Who is Eric? He is one of a very small list of people I can tolerate for extended periods of time. How many lists do you suppose you're on? Arthur undid his seatbelt and got out of the car. The smirk on Wen's face was noted and filed away for a future rebuttal. Wen held the door for Arthur, who paused, and then was thrust into the 21st century by a feisty new TA's double-handed push to the back. If Arthur were to guess, she had to put all 100 pounds of her into the shove. A woman with an air of suburbia housewife, in a blue genius shirt, smiled as if she wasn't peddling wares that were surely the first sign of the apocalypse, and asked, "How may I help you today?" Arthur fixed his best nonchalant expression, which did an admirable job of hiding his fear of looking stupid. Answering in a similarly calm fashion was more than he could muster. He focused on the woman's name tag, which read Allison. Wynne said, "Professor Byrne needs a new phone." Allison said, "What type of phone are you looking to upgrade from?" Wynne said, "His phone is probably a little older than he would like to admit. Why don't we just see what you have?" "Well, as you know, the iPhone 5S is out and is very exciting. The apps are wonderful. Would you like to see one?" Arthur didn't know what an app was, but it was the sort of question he could answer without fear of messing up. He said, "Yes, please." For the next 10 minutes, Allison Suburbia talked about features, her voice rising more than an octave at the really important parts. He wondered if she had a teenage daughter going through her OMG shouting phase. His writer's mind kept him entertained as she droned on about the things beyond his ability to comprehend or appreciate. Allison Suburbia was easily encouraged with gentle nods of faux standing, he thought. He made a mental note to write faux standing down later. Making up words made Arthur happy. Arthur said yes to a question he hadn't heard, which led to a typing of and adding up prices that almost caused him to black out. Somehow, Wen had his credit card and was explaining iTunes. Arthur had heard of iTunes, and because of his love of music, it seemed far less objectionable than anything else said. He decided to pay attention. Wen explained downloading, and Arthur had the presence of mind to make a suggestion. A moment later, he had purchased Messin' with the Man. Arthur hit play and said, "Originally by Junior Wells, this was released on the Chess label in 1961. Allison said, "I don't know much about music, but I like how it sounds. It's good." Arthur smiled. Louis Armstrong once said, "If it sounds good, it is good." Allison said, "Well, you can find almost any song imaginable on iTunes. And of course, there are lots of fun apps." Wynne got excited and asked if she could borrow Arthur's new phone. He shrugged and handed it to her. When she handed it back, it had another app on it. She said, "This is a game I bought just for you. Well, you bought it, but I think you'll like it." Arthur looked at her and said, "So, are we done spending my money? You've got a case, a plan, and a phone. We're done for now." Arthur thanked Allison, and he and Wen-Hu left. While he drove Wen back to campus, she programmed in her phone number and downloaded the Twitter app, explaining that she would help him set up all the important stuff tomorrow. When Arthur got home, he set his new phone down next to the rotary phone on the kitchen counter. He opened the refrigerator, and as he often did, only to curse his meager selection of choices. There were bananas and cheese. He grabbed a banana and picked up the rotary phone and dialed China House, but hung up before they answered. He wanted to curl up and sulk, but Arthur summoned all his strength. Using his new iPhone 5S, he pushed the little phone icon and dialed the number for China House again. There were a few things that a massive helping of shrimp lo mein couldn't cure. Well, that's chapter 4. Tomorrow, if you'd like to tune in to chapter 5, that would be lovely. I think that people will ask questions. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Or maybe they just want to comment on blunders I've made, poor choice of voices, things like that. All of that's welcome. If you'd like to help encourage me in my reading of these books I've written, give me a like. Leave a comment. And if you have a question, I'll do my best to answer it. Anyway, that's all for today. I look forward to reading another chapter tomorrow.